Reawakening. Star Wars: The Force Awakens is just a movie, right? Some say Jedi is a religion. We may not be able to move lightsabers and spaceships with our minds, but can we change our lives with positive thought and by awakening the spiritual force within? These are questions that we ponder in our Season 3 premiere of Reawakening, the Subconscious Mind podcast with dream interpreter and spiritual life coach Yvonne Ryba. I'm your host, Chris Mann, and in this episode, Yvonne dissects a dream she had about robotic alien invaders in the 1980s. Hello, evil empire. And how she devised a plan to defeat them and the fears they represented in her life then. This leads us to a discussion about how Star Wars is an allegory for life and how we are co-creators with the Force or with God, whatever that higher intelligence, universal being is that we come from, and how we can use the Force for good in our daily lives. Yvonne is a licensed practitioner in science of mind, which is a philosophy, a religion, a spirituality that really is about using positive thought to change your life for the better. So this is an interesting discussion. Sit back and we will rejoin Yvonne. Hi again, Yvonne.
Hey, Chris, how are you?
I'm doing okay, all things considered. And, I had asked you some time ago with all of this hype leading up for months to the new Star Wars,
Yes.
The Force Awakens, if you had anything in your dream journal, sort of otherworldly or intergalactic or anything in that realm, what did you come up with?
Right. Well, I came up with a dream that I had in, I think, 89. Can you imagine that?
Oh, my, yeah.
In 1989.
Star Wars was definitely in the consciousness
Yes. Yes.
in the late 80s.
But, I've always been a sci-fi buff. I remember the very first Star Trek, in England.
Oh,
I
yeah.
saw it in the 60s. And, yeah, the whole thing. I remember when all of the science fiction things that came out. I mean, I was reading the comics before that, Superman and all those things. I mean,
Yeah.
for a woman, a young girl, that was different,
Right.
But I was into it. I mean, it was imaginative, creative. It was different.
Yeah.
It had adventure, and those things appealed to me. And it's always appealed to me, change and travel and so on.
For sure.
Yeah. So anyway, I'll tell you this dream that I had.
Great.
So, like a lot of my dreams and other people's, it started in a hotel. So, I'm in the hotel, very nice hotel, when somebody starts screaming and yelling and saying that some aliens had landed just outside.
Oh, wow.
And that they were coming in and they were blasting away or doing whatever. We never saw them as such at this point. But we knew they were there, and we could hear these thumping noises and so on, like big banging and crashing and all that kind of thing as they were stomping towards us. And apparently my image of them was that they were like robots. And that this banging and so on was as they were moving forward, they didn't care what they hit, a bit like the Transformers in the kids' movies that we've been watching, those things, that they were clunky, big, they smashed things. I mean, it was scary.
Yeah.
So I thought, right, well, we got to get out of here, okay? Everybody's running around screaming and yelling and trying to get away. So I thought, well, I won't take the elevator because that's the first place they'll all get into. This is my imagination.
Right. Well, because they're advanced. They're advanced.
Yes.
They're going to get in the elevator.
That's right. So I took the stairs, okay? So I started running up all these stairs in this huge hotel, thinking, well, robots are not going to run easily, and they won't think about coming up the stairs. I mean, this was what I was thinking.
Right. Well, you got C-3PO. I don't even think his knee's bent.
Yeah, he never runs, does he? When you see C-3PO, he's always kind of like shuffling along there.
Clunky, yeah.
So I'm running up the stairs, and there were some other people there, and I remember thinking, I'm running away from them, because what can I do? When it hit me that they would just follow us and kill us all.
Right.
I had to stop and get some help. So I decided, since other people were there, I thought, let us band together. Let me get some support here, a group. Let's come up with a plan. We can defeat these aliens. And that's what we did. I started saying, look, it's no good just running away. We've got to stop. We've got to face it. We've got to come up with a plan. And as soon as I said that, and people were listening. As soon as I said it, I had a very strong feeling that I was going to have a plan that would defeat them.
Wow.
It was like it was a done deal. Okay, you've thought it, it's worked. It's like magic, you know. I know I'm going to be able to defeat them.
That's right.
These aliens.
It all starts with that thought. Yeah.
That's right. So you can tell that this is obviously something going on in my life where I am running away from the idea of it, but had to stop and say, wait a minute, this isn't going to work.
Right.
We've got to face it. It's got to be dealt with. And that's exactly what was happening in that time frame, because we had come to this country in 82 and we lived in Houston, Texas for the next 7 years or so.
From England to Texas.
Yes. Total culture change. Totally different every way. Weather, people, language even, because you think you're speaking English, but you're not. You're
Well,
speaking
I'm
American.
from Oklahoma. I know what you mean by that.
Yeah. Different words, people look at you and say, what do you mean, you know? So,
Right.
yes. So now then, in 89, we'd been invited to go to L.A. to do some work, my husband, and he worked in special decorative arts and things like that, and he worked in Beverly Hills. Anyway, so he'd done this job in Beverly Hills, and we'd come back home again to Houston. And then a huge job came up, and they invited him over and said, well, you know, you'll be here for quite a while, so you may as well live here. And that's what we were planning on doing.
Aha. Well, that's a whole other world.
Absolutely. Well, you know that.
Yeah.
You live there.
I moved from that part of the country to California. That's almost like from one country to another, in a sense.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's break it up. So here we have a hotel. Now, I've talked about hotels before. They are transitory places where we come and we go.
Right.
Most of us do not live in a hotel. But we go to them, we stay a short time, we enjoy it, and we move on.
Temporary.
Absolutely. Then aliens arrive. Okay. So what is alien? Alien is scary. Alien is strange, unknown. The dictionary says, I mean, there are several meanings, you know, in it, like foreigners and so on. But it does say, in science fiction, a being in or from outer space, extraterrestrial, but also it can mean opposed, repugnant, strange, the unknown. And that's exactly what it was. These robotic, crunching, you know, everything down under their feet, aliens were the scary thing that was coming along here that you had to run away from.
Right, the intergalactic boogeyman, so to speak.
Yeah, that's right.
You know?
And of course, robots are like totally, you know, away from our thinking because they're not flesh and blood. They don't have feelings. Now, C-3PO was a different setup. He sort of acted like a human being in a metal suit of armor.
Right.
But most of the, like the Transformer type thing or whatever, the robotic things are really, wow, how are we going to handle this? We have no clue how to handle it.
Yeah, completely devoid of any emotion.
Yeah. So I set up running up the stairs. Now, stairs, again, I'm sure I've talked about this in the past because we all have stairs in dreams at some point. But going up and down stairs or mountains or wherever it is, it's usually as you're trying to overcome or reach the top. You're trying to win the victory. You're trying to reach higher than you are. It's a struggle. And I was running up to try to get, I suppose, to the roof. I don't know what I thought it was going to do up there. But I knew that robots were going to have a problem climbing these stairs. That was my idea. So then it struck me that this was really kind of like a dead end, because I get to the top of the stairs, then what?
Right.
And then I met other people, and I thought, I can't do it on my own. We need some help to get together and support each other and come up with a plan. And as soon as I thought that, as soon as my intention was made, then I knew that we could do it. Then I sensed victory.
Right.
And so, didn't see them, didn't have the battle, just knew it was going to be okay.
Right. So you think, there it is.
Right. So I woke up and thought, okay, well, you know, as I've just been explaining, here I am facing a totally different place. I was going to be moving from Texas to California. My sister lives in Texas, so I got to see her. Not a lot, but, you know, I mean, it was a 4-hour drive. But California is a huge, long distance away.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't see her very much at all. So I was going into a totally alien place, as it were, and was feeling very insecure about it and wondering how to overcome it. and this insecurity, how to defeat the fear, because aliens are about fear.
Mm-hmm.
So then what happened was, that just as it said, I get support. I don't do it all on my own. I get other forces to help me.
Forces.
Yes, forces.
Use the Force, Yvonne.
Absolutely. And do you know what? This was at a time when my spiritual thinking was that God is the creator of all things.
Yes.
And I mean all things, not just people. And, of course, animals and the earth itself and the whole universe and everything that's in it.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore is an incredible, strong, and we'll use the word again, force, power, presence, whatever you want to, all things belong to God. So whatever I say, God is love. God is also an incredible power that we have, that we can use. God gives us that power. We are co-creators. We create in our lives. That's why we have a brain and a mind, an imagination, and so on. And look how many creative things we humans have come up with, from one extreme to the other, from the very best to the very worst. But we have created. We are not living in a cave anymore. We are out here driving around, flying in the air, diving into the water. We're doing all sorts of incredible things because of this imagination. So once I had figured out, I call upon other forces, other strengths to help me. It will be okay. And then I woke up and I did feel better. And of course, when we got to LA, and it was stressful because, moving your whole house across country.
Sure.
With a cat. I mean, we always had to figure out where to put the animal.
The cat always adds a little bit of stress.
Yes, of course, and I usually was the one that had the cat in the car while my husband drove the U-Haul or whatever. So we had all this stuff. So I did do that. And I used the spiritual side of me to help me. And it said, go and find other people that think like you and make friends. And I always went to libraries. Wherever I go to the library and see what's going on. There's usually a bulletin board with different classes or groups meeting, whatever it is. People put their cards up there, they do all that. And I found different groups that were meeting, and we went to them, and we got to know people, and we enjoyed ourselves. I mean, we had a good time. We used everything we could. I mean, we explored the place. Of course, we're both artistic and in creative ways, so we explored all the museums and art galleries and had a wonderful time at it.
So the resources became the forces.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we have the Force within us. There's no doubt about it. Star Wars is such a wonderful allegory for life. It really is. That there is this incredible power we can tap into to be used for good or evil.
Yeah.
And God says it's up to you what you do with it.
That's right. And fear is really, I think, the root of evil. They say it's money, but it's really fear and the intention, good or bad, that we put around a thing, whether it's money or whatever.
Yes.
And so, you've got to use the Force for good. And it starts with your thinking, and like you said, your intention. And your intention to fight that fear was a good intention. And from that flowed all good things.
Yes, it did.
And that's really kind of the science of mind, which you are a practitioner
Well, that's how it started for me.
Yeah.
I had the belief system. I just never found the philosophy anywhere else, you see, until I got to California. Then I started to find it. I found it in the education study groups and the Theosophy Society and the Philosophical Society in Pasadena. So we got round the place as well.
That's wonderful.
And then I found Science of Mind and eventually became a practitioner, which is quite a long thing. You've got to go through an awful lot to get there.
Oh, yeah.
When you become licensed in Science of Mind as a practitioner. And it's helped me a lot.
It's a bit like Jedi training.
Yes, exactly. We haven't got the lightsabers, though, unfortunately.
Right.
But that would be handy.
That would be handy.
Yeah. And I'd like to lift things off the ground without having to do it, physically.
Wouldn't that be great?
That would be fun, yes, instead of having to move things. I'd have the laundry basket floating around in front of me instead of having to drag it around.
Right. But you learn to use your mind as a force to move things in your life,
Yes.
A lot of people sort of claim as a religion Jedi, and people dismiss that as over the top or science fiction or whatever, but the core essence of it really connects to me with any religion that is based on the idea of co-creation and using that energy field to create good. And I believe that's at the core of science of mind.
Yes, it is. And when I say a power for good or evil, it is a free will, a choice to be made. But what you choose, you get more of.
You do.
And if you choose the dark side, that's what you get more of in your life. I mean, you do not get to be happy. I mean, it just implodes upon you eventually. And all throughout history, those cultures that have gone that way, yes, they appear to be winning on a certain level, but eventually they implode. They just cannot sustain it.
That's right.
Because it's so destructive, it destroys themselves. And we know that, yes, you've got to fight against evil. Don't let it get to you. But if you remain positive, you have a tremendous force field around you.
Force field, there you go.
Right, to protect you.
Mm-hmm. I love that this stream will lead us into a new year of right thinking.
That's what we want.
That's right. Thank you, Yvonne.
Yes, thank you very much, Chris. Bye-bye.
Reawakening with Chris Mann and Yvonne Ryba is a Rising Action Media production. Copyright 2016 by Chris Mann.